Hi, Elaine Enlightening at TapLightUnlimited.com to bring you another video where we're going to tap on A Course in Miracles. I felt guided to do that, and so far I'm still feeling that way, and so we'll just see how it goes as far as in the future. But for now, we're at Lesson 4 in A Course in Miracles. And today we're going to be doing a tapping round where we'll just specifically be following the lesson as it is stated on the card. And I just thought I would also use this as an opportunity to share how well it works whenever we tap on what's in the moment. So yesterday I had eaten a little bit too much, and after eating too much I noticed how I was feeling about it. Of course, I noticed that I felt really full, and I thought it was really interesting because I stayed with my really healthy food that I was eating. And it's been a habit for many years to at times overeat, and I tuned into what was going on after it happened, and even while it was doing it, kind of what I was aware at the moment. And I'm learning not to beat myself up, but instead to learn from it. So what I did was I tapped on the emotions and the feelings that I had had about it at the time that I did it, and even afterwards. And it was very interesting because while I was tapping, this memory came up, and I thought, now I wonder why that's coming up. And it was about a book that I'd read to my children when they were little. It's called Farmer Boy, and it's in the Little House on the Prairie series. I read that series many times while my children were small and growing up, and Farmer Boy was my favorite book in that series. And I was just tuning into that while I was tapping. I started just incorporating what was going on there, because at first I thought, I don't really know why that's even coming up, but I've learned in my training that it's really important not to just poo-poo something because it doesn't seem to fit. And as soon as I tuned into it, it made a lot of sense, as far as sometimes I see right away how my mind had made a correlation. And I also understand that it's not we don't want to rule things out just because it seems like it's probably not much of an influence. I mean, I was an adult, right? But at the same time, we want to realize that we're attracting all these things into our life for a reason. It's not random. And the whole idea of what we're doing right now with the Course in Miracles is letting go of our meaning of these things. And today we're addressing our thoughts. And I thought, well, that's really perfect with this experience, because in my ego mind, I'm correlating a lot of emotion with that book and with some of the experiences that I read in that book. There's a lot about food in there. At least when I read it, that's what I hear a lot about. Now, someone else might read it and not pay much attention to the food. So there again, that just shows it's not truth, it's just a perspective. That's what we're addressing here. The Course in Miracles, in this lesson, the idea is to realize that, yes, everything we see doesn't have meaning. We want to let go of that idea of what we think it means, so we can be open to the truth about what it means. That, in other words, through Christ's eyes, we can actually see everything in a whole new way. And this is more of an enlightened way of looking at life. But when we see it through our ego's eyes, we're going to judge everything not for what it really was meant to be. And we're going to miss it. The world will teach us all these meanings, and then we'll want to blame the world for it, right? And so the idea is to just take back ownership so that we can actually shift all that energy. And it was just very interesting as I tapped on that. So I did tap quite a bit on all that was going on with that book. So today I'm just going to stick with the Course in Miracles lesson and just show you how you can tap on that. It's a very powerful way to release the energy, because we're actually tapping on the meridians of our body. I don't really understand it all that well, but it's an acupuncture based approach to do the EFT. And I just love how I'm able to integrate and to let go of these understandings of my own and learn the higher truths much quicker using EFT. So that's what I'm sharing with you today, my passion and my purpose. When I'm actually tapping with people in coaching sessions, I really encourage people to tune in to their thoughts that are going on while we're tapping, because they're not random. They seem random and they may not make any sense at the time, but oftentimes once we start tapping on what memory, we'll see patterns, and those patterns will help us undo a lot of stuff that has held us back, that's been blocking truth. Okay, so let's just get right to it. And another point in this lesson is to not eliminate anything that we would call good. We have a tendency to judge everything. And this is very important, to be willing to let go of this judgment of even what we call good. That can even be a shadow, as the lesson states, that is even still keeping us in the dark. And we're not realizing it because we think we know what's right about everything, what everything means. And I just really am grateful that I was able to tune into that memory, because I hadn't thought of that in the whole year when it related to food. And I've tapped on emotional eating. I even have a video on that on YouTube. And then, you know, I've done other tapping on memories about food over the year. And this hadn't occurred to me. So it's really interesting, because in the book, Almanzo's mother does a lot of baking, and he eats a lot, and he likes to share, the author likes to share how he would eat, and it's very detailed about how much he would eat. So I ended up, as I tapped on it, realized I had a lot of judgments about that. And of course, any judgment we have on others, then we're really just judging ourselves. And it's yeah, I can't get into all that right now. It's just not enough time. But what we're going to do is a quick tapping round, because this lesson says to not do this very long, because the ego just kind of wants to go crazy at the whole idea that, you mean my thoughts about that don't mean anything. It tends to create a lot of confusion to go there. So I'm going to honor that in this lesson, and we're just going to actually just address the lessons head on instead of a full-fledged tapping round like I normally do. I mean a full-fledged, not necessarily a long one like I've been doing in other videos, but I've been doing some of the other parts of the style I use. So let's just take a deep breath. Let that out and ground into your body. Start on karate chop. Even though I have this thought about Farmer Boy and what that book means to me, it doesn't mean anything. It's just like the things I see in this room. The lights do not mean anything. Okay, and we're just going to go on around and do some more of these thoughts, okay? This thought about healthy eating does not mean anything. It's just like the things I see in this room. The rug on the floor does not mean anything. This thought about getting full does not mean anything. It's just like the things I see in this room. And you're welcome to substitute things that you see in your room instead if you want. This chair I'm sitting in does not mean anything. This thought about salads metabolized too quickly does not mean anything. It's just like the things I see in this room. My glasses do not mean anything. This thought that I don't want to starve does not mean anything. It's just like the things I see in this room. The camera does not mean anything. This thought that Almanzo eats too much does not mean anything. It's just like the things I see in this room. My cell phone does not mean anything. This thought that Almanzo's mother made too much food does not mean anything. Just like the things in this room. The heater does not mean anything. This thought that reading this book has no impact on my life does not mean anything. It's just like the things I see in this room. The books do not mean anything. This thought about Farmer Boy is my favorite book in the Little House on the Prairie series. Does not mean anything. It's just like the things I see in this room. My glass of water does not mean anything. This thought that I overeat when I get too hungry does not mean anything. It's just like the things I see in this room. The lesson plans for A Course in Miracles do not mean anything. This thought that I need to eat every few hours, whether I'm hungry or not, does not mean anything. It's just like the things I see in this room. The blanket does not mean anything. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Okay, take a deep breath. See how that feels for you. That was really fun for me. I've done quite a bit of this work before, and so it's not such a big stretch anymore. When I first started this, it was a challenge to do these lessons, so I understand. And hopefully this can get you a start if you're not familiar with Course in Miracles, and if you've been doing it a while, or maybe even longer than me, this can still give you another way to incorporate the principles into your life. Thank you for joining me, Elaine Enlightening at taplightunlimited.com. Bye-bye.